Okay, good morning. It's a dreary November morning here in Alabama as we're recording this, but hopefully wherever you are tuning in, it's a beautiful sunny Alabama day. My name's Charlie Pond. I serve as the executive director for SSBCI here at Innovate Alabama. And first off, thank you for tuning in and watching, whether you're a startup founder, a small business owner, lender, or an advocate for growing a healthy entrepreneur ecosystem across Alabama. We hope the next hour will be informative, beneficial, and maybe even a little exciting as we discuss how LendAL and InvestAL are making a huge impact on the state. So first of all, thank you for tuning in. But stepping back a little bit, you're probably familiar with Innovate Alabama, but if not, we're the state's hub for innovation-driven growth and entrepreneurs in the state. Across our wide array of programs, we're committed to empowering entrepreneurs, small businesses, and startups, and helping founders grow roots in the state of Alabama. We're also the implementing entity for the State Small Business Credit Initiative. In June of this year, we received nearly a $98 million investment, an award from the U.S. Department of Treasury. It's the largest small business funding program in the state's history, and we think it's going to be impactful in numerous ways. It's transformational investment, and it's designed to spur economic growth by catalyzing a self-sustaining long-term investment activity in the state of Alabama. We administer two core SSBCI programs here at Innovate Alabama, LendAL and InvestAL. Both address critical gaps in access to capital. We hope they empower entrepreneurs to grow and create jobs and stay here in Alabama. The LendAL program is our debt program. It's designed to boost lender confidence, increase access to capital via credit enhancement so that borrowers can start new businesses, expand operations, make strategic hires. We hope by mitigating the risk for lenders that LendAL ensures that small business owners can secure the funding they need to launch and expand operations. The InvestAL program is our venture capital program and drives equity investment through our co-investment program, through which Innovate Alabama invests alongside private investors in Alabama businesses, and the Fund to Funds program, where Innovate Alabama partners with venture capital firms targeting Alabama companies. And together, these programs work to multiply available capital, address funding challenges, and create a robust pipeline for sustained growth here in Alabama. And we hope the impact of these programs is going to be substantial. So we're already seeing exciting progress, but by unlocking access to funding SSBCI, we think will help businesses create jobs, increase revenues, build a stronger local economy in our communities. And we estimate that the funding can catalyze hundreds of millions of dollars in private investment. So our ultimate goal through this initiative is to transform the state's entrepreneurial landscape, create a fertile ground for founders and small businesses so that they can plant roots, scale, and drive economic prosperity in the state of Alabama. So we've got a good conversation ahead. I'm joined today by our two program managers for the LendAL program and the InvestAL program, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Walt Postlewait, who's the program manager for LendAL. Walt, good morning.
Thank you, Charlie. So as Charlie said, my name is Walt Postlewait. I'm the program manager for the LendAL program. What LendAL is, it's working with the lenders within the state of Alabama to help them get capital to you all, the business owners. At the end of the day, that is these taxpayer dollars that we call SSBCI. The idea is that the program has credit enhancements that reduce some of the risk, not all of the risk, the lender, and that gives them the ability to say yes to a loan when otherwise they couldn't. And this fits really well with my background. I am a career banker, 30 plus years in banking of some sort. Started with a big national bank, moved into the community banks, which I love and I think are the fabric of capital in the small business ecosphere, especially in Alabama. And then also I spent over a decade in the CDFI space, when CDFI is a community development financial institution. in many ways, they feel like a bank, but they're not a depository. So the money that they lend out is their own. And it was actually through working with a large regional CDFI that I was able to work with, at that time, the state of Washington with SSBCI 1.0, because that is the magical thing with SSBCI. This is the second time Treasury has authorized this program. The first time it was a $1.5 billion program across the country. This time around, it's a $10 billion program. So it's much larger. It's allowing Alabama to do actually more good work. We have 3 credit enhancements for 2.0, where we really only had one the first go around about a decade ago. And so for LendAL, again, working with the lender, because it is I describe it as a triangle. It does take 3 legs to make LendAL work. We need the borrower, we need the lender, and we need Innovate Alabama. And the 3 of us kind of think of us the 3 legs of a stool. If you have 3 legs, you can have a stable stool. And so that's what the LendAL provides. We have the 3 credit enhancements. We have a loan guarantee program. We have a collateral support program, and we also have a loan participation program. And we'll talk more about the details of those as this conversation goes on. But for now, I would say that's my introduction, and I'd hand it back to Charlie.
Thanks, Walt. And also today we're joined by Dr. Rodney Sampson, who runs our InvestAL program. Rodney, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Morning, Charlie.
Love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and talk about how you were connected with Innovate Alabama.
Absolutely. And it is indeed a sunny day in Alabama. So I've been in the technology startup and venture ecosystem for over 25 years. First as a technology founder, then as an investor, and then as an ecosystem building, helping to catalyze entrepreneurial ecosystems across the nation. On the capital formation side of our work, or the investment side of our work, we have invested in over 200 startups, high growth startups. And we have invested in over 20 venture capital funds as well. The way I got connected with Innovate Alabama was through a mutual contact that works with Innovate Alabama. HR&A advisors knew of our work in North Carolina, where today we manage the venture capital fund of funds SSBCI program for the state of North Carolina. And so they knew of our work there, and they made a recommendation. I got on the phone with Cynthia, and I haven't felt like I've been in an interview. I was like, wait, is this an interview? And she grilled me very, very hard for about 30 minutes. And shortly after that, she invited me to join the SSBCI team alongside Walt and others, and now yourself as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's Cynthia Crutchfield, our CEO, and we are adhered at her pleasure. So yeah. Thank you, Rodney. While I have you, I'm gonna start with you. Can you talk a little bit more about our specific program, InvestAL, how it's designed, what the primary mission is, and kind of what you're seeing so far as we roll out over the first few months?
Absolutely. So if we double click on what my colleague Walt has already given us as a background, the State Small Business Credit Initiative has been around for a while. It started originally in the Obama administration, and then it continued during the first Trump administration, And then in the Biden-Harris administration, it was reauthorized by Congress and 10x to $10 billion. So $1 billion to $10 billion. $3 billion of that capital has been set aside initially for venture capital. And these pots of money sort of move based upon the supply and demand of the ecosystem. But as it stands, a little over $3 billion is for venture capital. 97+ million comes to the state of Alabama, thanks to Governor Ivey, who signed this opportunity into law, and all of the other legislators that voted on its behalf. This wouldn't be possible without their legislative and policy-driven support. Inside of that 97 million, we have $25 million plus and growing that is specifically for the venture capital program. The venture capital program has two funds. There's a direct co-invest fund, and in that fund, we make direct investments in high growth startups that are raising venture capital from the private markets. And we'll come back and double click on that a little bit more. We also have a fund of funds program, which we're equally excited about, where we invest in those funds, and those funds in turn invest directly in startups as well. So there's sort of two entry points to our capital. One is by contacting Innovate Alabama through our website. There's a form on our website that says pitch us. Like, that's for founders. So when you get to the website and you see pitch your startup or pitch us, that's us. The second way is through the funds. And once we have selected the funds and invested in the funds, you'll be able to go directly to those funds as well.
Great. And I know we've talked, me and you, about the excitement that we're seeing. Can we double click on that and talk about, from a beyond process, just initial impression as we've rolled out the program, kind of what's the appetite in Alabama for venture?
I'll say it, like Outcast used to say, the South's got something to say. We are seeing an incredible pipeline of startup founders that are working on everything from enterprise software, where they sell their technology to other companies, to ag tech products, to biotech products. It's just incredible. And I'm very, very excited, sometimes a little overwhelmed at the pipeline that we have. And it continues to grow. When we announce the deal that we've invested in publicly, we see an uptick in our applications. We're also incredibly excited about the geographical distribution of our deal flow. We call that our portfolio construction. And of course, we got deals in Birmingham, but we've also got deals in Mobile. We've also got companies in our portfolio from Huntsville. And we've got one pretty high profile company in Tuskegee as well. And so we're starting to see applications from not just, the usual suspect of Birmingham, where the tech and startup world has sort of centered itself, but throughout the state as well. So want to encourage, anyone that says, I'm building something and I'm swinging for the fences. Those are the types of companies that we take a serious look at. But it all starts with the application. And I wouldn't, opt out without going through the application process, because you really don't know what's going to catch our, sort of our team's eye. And we could talk a little bit also about what does that process look like, if you like.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. Before I do, I want to bring Walt in just for a second. Walt, you're the LendAL program, a little bit of different mission than InvestAL, just as impactful as we think about the impact on small businesses across the state. And Rodney focused on that kind of geographical diversity that he's seeing in the invest pipeline. That's a priority for you. Taking a step back, I wonder if you could just talk through a little bit deeper on the ways that LendAL is designed and the kind of what you're seeing so far as we've rolled out that program across the state with lenders and borrowers.
Certainly. Thank you, Charlie. So, as I've described before, LendAL is not the sexy program. You don't see people at cocktail parties or a gathering talking about, oh, hey, I just closed a loan for XYZ, but you will go to parties and you'll hear people talking about their VC raise. So Rodney's got the sexy program, and in some ways I'm jealous. But on the flip side, traditional bank debt, whether it's coming from a regulated bank, a credit union, a CDFI loan fund, debt really is the main source of capital that keeps small businesses in Alabama and throughout this country moving forward, innovating, creating new products, new opportunities, creating new jobs, and increasing the FTE and their payrolls, which then go back into those communities where they're found. And I've said it before, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax person, but in my humble opinion, owning a business is the best income tax strategy there is. I'm a huge believer that business ownership is how wealth is created, how a family can change their trajectory from an economic scale. And typically, that is going to use some sort of debt to achieve. With debt, you also have to pay that back. That's the downside of debt. You have to have a reasonable plan to pay that back through cash flow. So when we're working with the lenders, and as I mentioned, we have 3 programs under LendAL. Each program, the guarantee program, the collateral support program, and the participation program, truly address different types of credit risk or types of weaknesses that a business may have that would cause a lender pause, cause them concern that the risk outweighs the benefit to that lender in the community to say yes to that loan. But it's through our LendAL credit enhancement where that lender can offload some of that credit risk, where they can say yes. The beautiful part of these 3 programs, we've been really live since June 28th. That's when we got our first approval. Since then, we have 32 loans that are in our system, closed in approval process somewhere within Innovate, Alabama. Out of those 32 businesses, and actually it's 30 businesses because we have a couple of multiple loans, that represents a little over $6.5 million of SSBCI funds. But the beautiful part is that actually represents over $15 million of lending that have gone to these businesses. And the range of businesses and industries are from manufacturers to services to restaurants. We're pretty agnostic when it comes to the type of business. What we're looking for is that entrepreneur who has a belief in their business. They have put together a business plan that they can discuss with the lender, and that business plan has a reasonable path to cash flow that can repay that debt. And we have loans from $10,800 all the way up to $5 million that we have had come in the door. Outside of that, we also have kind of a borrower interest pipeline form that can be filled out. And I believe there's about 150 businesses that have raised their hand and said, we're looking for capital. What do we do next? And so we've been able to hand them off to our technical assistance providers. Part of the SSBCI program is actually resources for organizations to help you, the business owner, get into a position where you can approach a lender for debt or approach a VC, a venture capitalist fund, to get some equity financing. And this is of no charge and no cost to you, the business owner. So when somebody reaches out to us who's not ready to engage with the lender, we hand them off to our technical assistants. The jargon is TA provider, to help you get ready for that next step. But that's the beautiful thing with all of these programs, whether it's LendAL or InvestAL. This is using taxpayer money to help you invest in your business and create and take advantage of those opportunities as you see them. The last thing that I'll say, though, is even though LendAL helps take on that risk that the lender would normally take on by themselves, these credit enhancements do not make a bad loan good. So please do not confuse LendAL as a carte blanche opportunity to go get debt. You, the business owner, still need to have that reasonable path forward to generate cash flow to repay the debt. This does not replace that.
Thanks, Walt. Just real quick, in a minute or so, can you kind of double click on those three programs and those credit enhancements and kind of talk specifically about the how? I know as I kind of travel across the state, we get that question a lot, and just understanding exactly what they're doing. And one of the questions I often get is, how do I pick which program to use? And so, can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, this is the beautiful part of that. It's not on you, the business owner, to pick that program, right? Because as I was describing, that the LendAL program is like a three-legged stool. The lender, at the end of the day, the lender has to say yes to making that loan and giving you the capital to take advantage of that opportunity. So we actually suggest and coach the businesses to allow the lender to pick the credit enhancement they need to get to the yes. Because frankly, getting to the yes is the finish line for you, the business owner. So we will work with the lender. We kind of identify why they can't say yes without us, and then we help them pick the credit enhancement that's going to get them to the yes, so that business owner can have the loan.
And remind us what those three enhancements are, and kind of how they help the lender.
Certainly. So the loan guarantee program is what we call a loss share program, where it's a 50% guarantee. It's very similar to an SBA guarantee, which is something that's very common in the banking industry. And then also USDA has a lender program as well with a guarantee. What this means is that under the guarantee program, if the loan goes bad and goes into default, and the lender goes through their collection process, if they have a realized loss on that loan, we'll make that loss less. We'll actually reimburse them half of the loss that they experienced. The collateral support program was truly designed from input from lenders, because we were asking questions, and we asked, when you want to do a loan, but you just can't get to that yes, what is typically the problem? And they said insufficient collateral, that there is a collateral gap that they can't get over. So we designed this program where we will work with that lender, we will identify what that collateral gap is, and we'll actually put a deposit into that bank and pledge that as additional collateral for the loan. In the event that the loan does not work out, goes into default, the bank goes through their liquidation and collection process. If there's a loss, they're able to take that loss out of our cash deposit up to the amount of our deposit. And so we actually call that a first loss position, because if the loss is smaller than our deposit, the lender can sidestep any loss. The third program, which is the participation program, we describe it as our kind of semi-exotic, but at the end of the day, it is a method where we can buy up to 30% of that lender's loan. And if there is a loss, we will experience the loss. We get paid after the lender gets paid. So again, it's a first loss position where if the loss is smaller than our 30% share, we will absorb the loss where the lender doesn't. And those three credit enhancements, by reducing the risk and the exposure to the lender, is what allows them to then say yes and deploy that capital to small businesses.
Yeah, and thanks for that. The big takeaway for me from both of those answers for both Rodney and Walt are, they both laid out kind of the entry point for the borrower, the founder, to get connected with Innovate Alabama. You have the borrower interest form on our website. It's InnovateAlabama/programs. You get to the SSBCI page and it says borrower interest form there. You click the link. Same thing for the application to pitch. It's on the website as well. They're right next to each other. You can't miss it. And so I want to focus on that process element. So Rodney, going back to InvestAL, you mentioned a pretty robust pipeline. I think we've got north of at least 160 applications started. I'm not sure how many of those are complete, but I know the team has been active in hearing those pitches and doing due diligence on the companies. What should a founder who goes through that process, A, how should they prepare to go into that process, and B, what should they expect as they interact with Innovate Alabama?
Great question. So I'll preface my response to those who are listening that there is a detailed InvestAL FAQ on the page, the SSBCI. Slow that down a little bit because we sort of say it so fast, but if you search AL SSBCI, it'll probably pull up that direct page on our website, so you don't have to go digging for it. But in the InvestAL section, we do have some FAQs as well. And so I'll be referring to that document in summary, but I encourage you to read it in detail because it's basically, the cheat sheet to the process per se. And so to start the process, you complete the application on the website, and that's when you will give us your pitch deck, your investment agreement or term sheet. And if you're raising private capital, you'll already have these documents prepared by your securities lawyer. Your most recent capitalization table, we call that cap table. And then our program requires the verification that you have registered your offering with the SEC or the Alabama Securities Commission, ASC. And if you are an exempt transaction, which most early stage companies are when they're raising their pre-seed, seed, maybe Series A round, they're exempt. There's a filing of that, a notice filing of that exemption that you can provide. And that's required once we get or if we get to the compliance part of this. After you submit your application, our team reviews the materials and we'll reach out if we're interested in learning more. And this can be a sensitive area. If we don't reach out, it doesn't mean never. It just means that right now there's something in your respective application that didn't advance you. And here's some of the things that might do that. You might be structured as a limited liability company. For liability purposes, we do not invest in LLCs. You should be structured as a C corporation. And so I would consult, a securities attorney specifically about that. You also have to be actively raising. If you're not actively raising and you don't tell us that you're actively raising by answering those questions appropriately, we will think that you're just pitching. You want to pitch, but you don't have the one-to-one financing requirement, which is often referred to as a match. And although we are not just a matching program, hey, I've got $5,000, match it with 5,000. It doesn't quite work like that. You have to, we have to believe in your team, believe in your product, believe in your market. It's good to have revenue traction as well, recurring revenue, the right partnerships. All of those things are taken into consideration when we decide to advance an application to do due diligence. But if you are invited to pitch, you'll give a formal pitch to a member of our investment team. And then after your pitch, we caucus amongst ourselves. We will refer back to the material you submitted, or we'll reach out and ask you for some more information as well. And if we decide to invest, we will inform you via email. This email will also include a list of all the governance documents we need from you, the certifications you must sign to be what we call Treasury compliance. And then once we have all of that information, we send the legal documents and the governance documents to our legal team for review, feedback, sometimes negotiation on choice of language, choice of words. Like we like to have the most favored nations clause in our documents. You can ask your securities lawyer about that. So include it in your document. We invest in price rounds. We invest in safes, convertible notes as well. So there's a myriad of structures. So don't limit yourself based upon one structure or the other structure. And so your packet will go to legal, your compliance, the entire packet will go to our compliance team, and they will review everything in detail. And then once they give us a final sign off, we're able to, fund the transaction. And we understand sometimes that, timing can be everything. And I would like Vicki Gibbs on our team to come in and talk about briefly the specific things we ask for after we have decided to invest. Hello, Vicki.
Victor, you're on mute. There you go.
The mute thing. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Good.
Good. So, Rodney wanted me to talk. I work with Rodney as in fund operations, and I have been involved prior to this as an operator and have been involved in multiple startups. So I'm super excited to see the momentum in Alabama and be a part of bringing investment to these founders to see what success they're going to have down the road. So once we have decided to invest, then we go through a process where we are making sure and collecting documents to ensure that everything is compliant and we have the information we need to report on it to Treasury and report on it to Alabama. Those include things like governance documents, such as your EIN letter, a signed W-9, things like the state of Alabama registration, ensuring that you are registered to do business in the state of Alabama. We also have, Rodney touched on this a little bit, so we have some legal documents that we sign with each of the founders. One of these is the side letter, which incorporates a lot of things about reporting and things like that, timing of things, as well as the type of information we require and things like most favored nations. We also, so we require them to review that, let us know if there are any comments. We also, the note documentation, whichever they're doing, we need that. So our attorneys, so we basically come together on that. And then one of the most important things is our certification. So we have a number of certifications that we require founders to self-certify. So one of these is a transaction enrollment form. And in this form, we ask a lot of details for the founders so that we have this information. Things like not only their EIN number, NAIC code, but things like their address. Also things like what was their profitability last year, what was their annual revenue last year, as well as how many employees they had, as well as how many employees this investment is going to enable them to hire. Because what we're looking to do is really fuel these businesses to grow, and that information is included in that enrollment form. We also ask for information about their insiders, about their investors. We ask for information about their investors so that we can do our own insiders check. Now, what that means is there are a number of people involved in implementing and being a part of making this SSBCI program happen. Those are considered by US Treasury as SSBCI insiders. We have to make sure that none of those people have been prior employees, or be financially motivated prior to our investment, just to make sure everything's clean. So we have a list of those insiders, and the company has to self-certify that none of those have been involved. In addition, we have a self-certification about that someone is not a sex offender, and we also have a demographics form that has to do with tracking about is someone basically classified under a number of groups which are defined as socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And there are definitions in the US Treasury and SSBCI documentation about this. They may be things like gender, veteran status, and things like being in a rural community or in a CDFI area. So it's a broad definition there. So, but we find that we have a lot of documentation on this. We also offer to meet with the founders and address any questions. So we're really looking to be partners in this. It is information, but we really want to make sure it's as easy as possible for them to get this information to us.
Thank you, Vicki. And Rodney, I know you mentioned one of the as part of the process, you know, if a founder hasn't heard anything, it doesn't mean never. And some of the decisions that you and Vicki and the team are making are around allocation. And, you know, I think a lot of our we have the headline this summer from Governor Ivey announcing the $98 million award. Anybody who's dealt with government programs before understands, hey, there's certain requirements we have to hit in order to access all 98 million of those dollars. And so the way we've structured is we get tranches and we get those funds in tranches. And in order to access our next tranche, we've got to go spend a certain amount or allocate a certain amount of our existing tranche. And so sometimes the reason we haven't heard anything is because y'all are making allocation decisions based on the finite number of dollars available at a certain time. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, we operate the program with best practices, industry best practices. And so if you are a founder and you haven't heard anything, what types of behavior would you yourself do if you were trying to raise money and circling back and asking for updates or providing more information, not now, but as you move forward?
That's an excellent question. And having, been a founder that has raised venture capital multiple times, there's sort of a code, right? You don't want to be too bothersome, but it's definitely a best practice to provide an update. Whether reaching out and saying, hey, can I get an update from you on where you are with making a decision, maybe provide us an update on some traction in your respective company. And, although it sounds like 97 million is a lot, debt has a lot of that, venture has some of that. And so it's not an unlimited amount of capital. The data has shown, and the trends have shown, that venture capital it's not, not just like it's fun, right? But it's really existential to the economic development of a community. If you look at the majority of net new jobs are coming from venture-backed companies, that's powerful when you start looking at the tax base for a municipality or the revenue for a state as well. And so this is a very, very important program in terms of job creation and also problem solving. Typically, high growth startups are solving very, very hard problems. So if you get to the point where you actually are able to raise venture capital, it's an incredible privilege, and it's also something you have to expend wisely, if that makes sense. And so I know everybody watches Shark Tank. I used to be a producer on the show, but we want to be mindful that this is very, very serious business that we're embarking upon. So if you don't hear from us, just keep us updated, and then understand that we may not select you in tranche 1, but keep updating us through tranche 2 and hopefully through tranche 3 as well.
And to your point, we're stewards of taxpayer dollars, and that's what this is. And we're having to make decisions on both invest and on lend. And so kind of circling back to you, Walt, on the lend side, I think you spoke already around how to connect with Innovate Alabama. As a small business owner, or the CFO, or whoever's managing that transaction for the business, kind of expectations on process here. How do you engage your lender? What's the interaction with Innovate Alabama, and what should you expect from both the borrower's perspective and from a lender's perspective, if there's a lender or a commercial loan officer who may be listening in?
Yeah, certainly. So first and foremost, if you are a business owner, or if you're in a C-suite management position in a business, and that business does not have a relationship with the bank, start one. And a relationship with the bank is not just a deposit account. You need to have a relationship. Relationship is probably the most abused word in the financial industry, but you truly do need to know who you're dealing with. You do not want to be in a position where, if you have a question, you're picking up a phone and you're calling somebody who is not in your community, not in your state, maybe not even in the country. You really want to have a relationship when it comes to your finances with somebody who knows you. That's the first step. Even if you don't need a loan, and frankly, your relationship needs to start before you need a loan, because then if you already have that relationship, if you've already discussed future ideas with your lending partner, then it's organic when it's time to actually seek a loan. And they're going to walk you through what that looks like and what they're going to need. More times than not, they're going to need your financial package. That's going to be, if it's an existing business, it's going to be at least 2, if not 3 years worth of tax returns. Hopefully you're using some sort of accounting platform, whether it be QuickBooks or something like that, so you can supply those along with tax returns. And you're going to need to have some sort of a business plan, because the secret to securing a loan is being able to prove a need, and that you have the ability to pay for that loan and pay it off over time through future cash flow. That's it. It's, we're in Alabama. Huntsville's just north of us, but I'll say it anyway. It's not rocket science. People have been getting loans for the last several hundred years in some fashion. And what that is showing a need and the ability to repay. Once you get back past that, now you get into the nuances, and that's really where the credit enhancements with LendAL come in. Because it is harder today to get a bank loan than it was 5 years ago. We've had other presentations where we actually lay out the empirical data that proves that fact. So we don't need to do that here, but it is harder to get a loan today than it was 5 years ago. And that's why the timing for LendAL, I think, is very appropriate to help lenders get past these types of credit risk and credit issues that prevent them from saying yes. But Charlie, step one, you got to have a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship with a financial institution today, that really should be the top to-do list tomorrow. If you need suggestions, Alabama is not a large state, but it is fairly well banked. I can tell you, there's 97 chartered banks in the state of Alabama, and that does not include the banks that do business in Alabama that aren't chartered in Alabama. So there is no reason not to have a relationship. And
There's a list on our website too, isn't there?
Of approved lenders, yes, of enrolled lenders. We have a list there. So there's no excuse, and you do want to find a relationship that clicks with you. We are human beings. We are creatures. We have personalities. Don't just take the financial institution that's at the corner of the block you're on. Find that relationship.
So from a lender's perspective, we've got the package. It's gone through the underwriting process using the credit enhancement. What's next for what should we expect?
Well, that's the easy side. So we get involved with the lender during their approval process. So if they are working with you, you are in their underwriting process. If they start to get some credit headwinds where that easy path to a yes is not there, the ones that are on our website that are enrolled have been using our program. Our credit enhancements, we're talking to more banks every week. Usually there's going to be a conversation with LendAL team and that lender about, okay, what's the credit risk? What do you need to get to a yes? Yes, the loan that you're outlining is eligible and fits our criteria. Excellent. What's the timing? Because capital is time sensitive. The reason why you're seeking capital is because you believe that you have opportunities to capitalize on. If this process takes 6 months, those opportunities have come and gone threefold. So we try to be very expeditious with our lenders, that once you get into that credit underwriting process, they identify a need for us, that we're providing that information and trying to get that approval and you closed, or your loan closed, as soon as possible, because capital is time sensitive.
Yeah. And so internally, package comes to us, we review it, similar to how Rodney mentioned the compliance committee. We have a compliance committee that reviews that it fits our treasury risk mitigation requirements, and then giving an answer back to the lender, and then proceed as you would with a normal closing schedule. And then whatever
Yeah.
activities on the other side of that, whether it be opening that collateral support account, there's some follow-on activities that we have to do internally that to speed that up as well.
Correct. There's some additional steps and work that we do on your behalf and the lender does on your behalf. But the nice thing with LendAL, there's actually no additional paperwork for you to fill out. There is a portal. We do ask some questions and there's some certifications we need from you. But as far as timely or lengthy work, we've streamlined that so it is not a time burden or a challenge for the business. Same thing on the lenders. We've streamlined our process. We use a kind of a portal process for their document upload and the questions they need to answer and the certificates that we need to sign from them. So we're embracing technology to streamline and expedite this process. Again, capital is time sensitive and we're aware of that.
And then hopefully after the successful closing and using our credit enhancement, you should get a letter from me or someone on our team kind of onboarding you, providing you an opportunity to tell your story around how, as a small business, you're impacting your community, how you're using the proceeds from the loan to grow your business or to acquire a new business or start up. And so we want to tell those stories with you. And whether that's on LendAL or InvestAL, we're already, as Rodney mentioned, telling some of these stories in the press, and you're seeing that on our website as well. We think that's an added benefit of using SSBCI is having the opportunity to kind of broadcast what you're doing and the important work that you're doing for your employees and in your community. And so we've been going now for about 4 months. You mentioned Walt, at the end of June, the official launch. Can you talk through real quick what you're seeing in terms of and what excites you about the progress so far on LendAL?
Yeah, I think we've had great success, and I measure that with a few different yardsticks. One, we do have pretty good representation throughout the state of Alabama, north to south, east to west. Loan sizes, as I mentioned, we have a $10,800 loan and we have a $5 million loan. So I like that. We have a very nice mix of business industries. I mentioned before, we've got service, we have manufacturing, restaurants, everything in between. So frankly, out of our subset of 32 that have come in the door that we've processed and we've analyzed and are either closed in the approving process, it's a great cross section of Alabama. What excites me? I love small businesses. I have been working hand in hand with small businesses since 2000 when I went into the commercial side of banking. So literally, at one point I tried to count the number of businesses that I had touched, and it was like 375, and that was like 15 years ago. I truly enjoy seeing small business owners succeed. Being a small business owner is the hardest job in the world. You're wearing too many hats. You don't have enough time in the day. And you got the weight of the world, not just your business, not just your household, but really your employees' households on your shoulders as well. I like the ability to help that. I enjoy hearing their stories and helping them tell their stories. And that is a wonderful thing of what we do with Innovate Alabama. When we work with a business, again, whether it's the InvestAL side or LendAL side, is we want to tell your story. We want to help spread your story, not just in Alabama, but if there's opportunities, let's share that outside of just our 4 borders. If nothing else, it's free media for you, the business owner. So that's what excites me. I think the LendAL product is needed in today's credit environment. I don't think 2025 or 2026 holds any magic silver bullets that will change the economy. I think lenders are going to be timid in and around approving debt. And yeah, as fate would have it, I think the need for LendAL and the timing of LendAL all coming together is excellent. And I'm just excited about helping more businesses. We've touched 32 that I've gotten to know, and working with the lenders, and I'm looking forward to having our 100th business participate and benefit from LendAL. And that's probably going to happen sooner than later, which excites me even more.
Awesome. Thank you. And Rodney, I won't ask you what excites you most, because I think the answer to that's probably going to be tranche 2 coming as quickly as possible. But I'll ask you the same question. Kind of just, what are you excited about? But also, I was wondering if you could touch on, we didn't really touch on fund to funds, and is there an opportunity for folks on the call? How can they get engaged in that process as we announce those funds that we're partnering with?
Absolutely. I'll address the second question first. So, we issued a RFP a few months ago for the Fund of Funds program, and we had a really, really good response of in-state and out-of-state funds who want to bring capital into the region. And that is very, very exciting. If you look at the data, the South in general has been underinvested when it comes to venture capital. And so this program is allowing outside investors to look at the incredible deal flow that we're seeing inside of the state. So I'm really excited, looking forward to the rest of the quarter, and of course going into the next quarter as well, announcing these funds and seeing them get active on the ground in Alabama as well. To talk a little bit about what's also exciting, between June and the end of the year, we will invest in about 22 companies. Really, really excited about that. We've closed with 7 so far, representing about $3.5 million, and another 15 that we can do. And every day we're seeing new companies. And so I think venture is going to increase its position in this program, and we're fingers crossed on that. Really, really excited about the opportunity to deploy more capital. And we're seeing this money go directly to hiring new people, new engineers. So, you might be watching this and maybe you're not a founder or investor, but, look out for these companies, because from a talent acquisition perspective, these high growth companies go into, supercharged mode in terms of acquiring talent. And that could be, sales talent, marketing talent, operations, of course, engineers and developers, but any career pathway can find its place, in the startup ecosystem. Excited to see a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning. There are a few moonshot companies that will really, really put Alabama on the map. And just remember, this is also the program that keeps on giving. As we see returns over the years on both sides, there's a bucket of money in Alabama to keep fueling these type of transactions. And now, because SSBCI is active on the ground, other organizations are having ideas of how they can match things and how they can get involved. So this has been a true catalytic moment for, this ecosystem. And I think we kind of measure it, from Innovation Day to Innovation Day, and from SLOS Tech in the middle, SLOS Tech, so we look forward to seeing you on the ground at these respective events, and you'll be hearing more from our founders that have received investment capital as well.
Yeah, and thank you for making that point, Rodney, around the self-sustaining impact that we're creating. I think the benefit, and I talk to people across the state as we talk about SSBCI. This is not a one-shot program. This is going to be an evergreen program where the returns off of the two programs are going to continually allow Innovate Alabama to invest in small businesses for what we hope is a generation to come. And so I know we've got just a few more minutes, and so I want to ask each of you to kind of think you through everything that you're seeing, that you've talked about today. What's that one takeaway that you would like the audience to walk away from this conversation with? And Rodney, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Engage in the program. Apply the pitch, connect with our founders, and connect with our future funds. That's
Amen.
it. Amen.
Amen. Walt, one takeaway for our audience, what would that be for you?
It's opportunities abound. Even though we've been kind of beat up the last few years economically and kind of a credit capital culture, I think opportunities abound, and those businesses that can figure out how to capitalize on today's opportunities, and as Rodney said, engage, apply, and let's work together to get you the capital to take advantage of those opportunities.
I echo both of those sentiments, and appreciate everybody tuning in. I encourage everyone to visit our website, innovatealabama.org. If you have specific questions or want additional information, we have a kind of a catch-all email address, and I'll read it out. It's just info@innovate.org, innovatealabama.org. Sorry. You can get more information, and just really appreciate everybody taking the time to learn more about our programs. We're really excited about the impact we're making and the potential impact that we can make on the state of Alabama. And it's a partnership across the board. So thank you, and have a great day wherever you are.
Thank you all.